देख बिना ब्रेक।
Download Tak app.
To get a sense of how the World Economic Forum week has been from an India perspective, we're joined by Deepak Bagla. He runs India Invest, and this is the body that helps foreign investors come into India. You know, I want to understand from you, Mr. Bagla, we've been hearing from some Indian industrialists and others as well, concern about social unrest, concern about the economy slowing down. How has Davos been from an India Invest perspective?
See, Rahul, walk down the promenade. The biggest presence here is India. 4 state governments, probably 5 or 6 private corporate bodies from India, which are having their big lounges. Our lounge itself from India is here. Let me tell you what we've done. We are day 3. My team has done about 118 one-on-one investor meetings, 23 sectors, 21 countries. And in fact, yesterday we had a roundtable with some of the global investors, the financial institutional investors. And what happened in that global investor roundtable is what happened right across all the meetings. And let me give you an example of that. Each and every one of those investors, which were venture capital and private equity, who are already investing in India, said they're looking at a 2x or a 3x of India in the next 24 months. Let me give you another statistic. From 2000 to 2019, the total FDI I've got is about 600 odd billion. 50% of that has come in the past 60 months. 50% of that is greenfield investment.
But some of it is also foreign companies buying out Indian companies. You have to minus that from what you're projecting as your FDI number.
So let me correct that for you, Rahul. When you do portfolio investment, which is when you're buying a stake, a number of these are buying stakes overseas. So that doesn't get into our FDI number. This is pure manufacturing FDI number. The interesting fact to that is last year we closed at about 61.5 billion, which was the highest ever. This year, that is 2019, in the first 6 months itself, I've got 35 billion. If I go by the run rate, this will probably be a record FDI year for India.
So are you saying, Mr. Bagla, that despite all the talk about the economy slowing down, the revival being some quarters away, this year India will register the highest FDI in its history?
If I go by the run rate, as I said, my first 6 months is 35 billion. My total annual record has been 61.5. So if I continue with the run rate, it's obviously well ahead of my previous record. But let me come back to the other point which you raised. What is it is that currently either you over-exaggerate the present. And I think when an investor is looking at India, and when I told you greenfield investment is 50% of what I got in the past 60 months, they are looking at India ahead. An investor put it very well, and I think that sums up to a large extent. Every tomorrow of India is better than today. And I think that was a beautiful statement, and I'll tell you why. One is they all believe that India has been able to take those 2, 3, 4 decisions which made good economics as the center of good politics. You did need a system which had to be out of a cash system. You did need a system where the tax system was only one tax across the country. That was inevitable, and especially what have you done in the past 48 months? You moved ahead of Russia, Italy, Brazil and France. Next 12 months you move ahead of the UK. Next 18 months you move ahead of Germany, you become number 4. Now you're in the big league of the top 3. You do need to make those big platform changes, which is what everybody has got the confidence that the Indian government today has been able to do that. And the most
But it's also very clear now that this whole target of a $5 trillion economy by 2024, that mathematically the economists say is highly unlikely to happen. We need to grow at almost 15% to make that happen.
So let me move it beyond the economist. Is it 2024, 2025 or 2026? It is inevitable and it's a reality that 5 trillion.
But you've set a target,
That 5
so therefore
trillion
you'll
is
be
there.
held accountable to that target.
Fair enough. And does that move by 12 months up and down? That is how it all happens. And it could be a little before. Even look at it today. I have 9 states which are growing at 7% plus. In fact, I have a few states which are doing a double digit even today. I have another 8 states which are anywhere between 4.5% to 7%. They're all setting to take it up to the next level. And then we've got the balance which is already ready in the next 36 months. For me, the story has just begun. And not just for me, for each of these investors who are coming into India, this story has just started. And the fact is, when they look at what India is, you do an investment today, it will start only 5 years later. There is no other place they can look at.
But has social unrest, these students' protests, been a theme? Because when that India strategy session happened in the World Economic Forum Congress, the only questions that were asked from the audience were about student protests, India's image being hit? You've been meeting a lot of investors. Is that a factor at all?
Not even one investor we've had a meeting with has raised that as an issue. In fact, everyone has said unanimously that the confidence which they have in India, its growth story, and the sustainability and the ability where the government has taken tough decisions to make doing business easy, as the Prime Minister says, making it easy to live in a country. They're all going by that. And they're seeing it, as I told you, every tomorrow is better than today. Even going back to sustainability, climate is a big issue here, as you know. Everyone is talking about the Jal mission, Jal Jeevan mission. Apart from the fact it's a $51 billion impact investment opportunity, which is probably one of the largest sitting on the planet. But everybody is lauding the government efforts on the size and scale of the ability to run a program which is going to touch 900 million individuals in a period of 48 months and to execute it from a zero. It is huge.
There's been talk that a lot of the private investment that's moving out of China is actually moving to countries like Vietnam, some even to Bangladesh. That despite Invest India, we haven't been able to attract manufacturing investment in India because people just think that it's easier to go to Vietnam or Bangladesh than it is to come to India.
It's a globally competitive world. There will always be some companies which will find it easier and better, and they will all have reasons to do that. The reason why everybody who's looking at India is looking at it because they see that this is the huge opportunity. They're looking at a place where doing business is becoming easier by the day. They're looking at a place where the business and people and the government are both business friendly. And that is why they're moving to us. And there may be a few which have moved to Vietnam. There may be a few which have moved to Bangladesh. They have certain strengths of their own. But I think the strengths of India are extremely strong. And it's an imperative for them to look at India on their market.
What you're saying, Mr. Bagla, is interesting that despite all the talk of the economy slowing down, that apart, it's possible that in 2020 we end with the highest FDI India has seen in its history. That would indeed be quite an achievement.